this is Pam Reese with Adventures in Aging, and I'm here with my friend
Gary Vandenberg. Pam, it's great to be back, and thank you to our sponsor, Stridelight. Stridelight.net provides quality diabetic shoes, custom inserts, orthotics, all lower extremity needs. For over 20 years, they've been providing quality feet-related products. Please mention Stridelight to your doctor or podiatrist for the best solutions for your feet. Thank you, Stridelight. Pam, what's our topic today?
Gary. Today we're going to talk about just getting over whatever the problem is.
Just get over it.
Just get over it.
Just get over it. Boy, I've used that phrase a lot in my life, whether verbally or mentally. But
Probably more mentally.
But I do know there's situations that, they are medical, they are psychological, they are physical, that people should not get over. So we want to give a little warning at the beginning. If you fall into one of those categories, if you're falsely imprisoned, you should probably continue to not get over it. How's that sound?
Right.
Or if something very traumatic has happened in your life, you really need to seek out some professional help, and we wish you the best. But for the rest of us, it's time to get over it, right?
That's right. So, Gary, how many times have you been in a conversation with someone? It's about maybe your third or fourth conversation. They're still talking about being fired. They're still talking
they're hanging on. They're hanging on to something.
They're hanging on.
They're
still talking about that negative impact in their life as if it just happened.
Yeah. Well, again, there's a lot. And I've done it a lot too over my life when it's happened. So I think there's something in our brains, that some chemical that's mixed up in there, that we can't get over things that easily, right?
Well, theory is that as humans, we tend to hold on to pain.
Do we?
Yes, we hold on to the pain, even though it fixes nothing. But it's an emotion that drives us, right? So if we get over it, what will we talk about?
Right.
How will we feel?
Well, I know in preparing for this, I was looking at some history, and going back to the late 14th century, this is where this term actually became, time to get over it. And it had to do with war veterans and war victims, and just trying to use it as therapy of saying it's time to move forward. It's time to get over. And an analogy I heard was about the herd. I think of like buffalo running around in the wild, wild west, right? And one of the little buffalo gets hurt, right? Well, the herd's sitting around going, "Hey, we can hang around with you for a while, but we're getting to a point we got to keep moving, right? Moving forward." Yeah. And so part of the analogy here is that it's time for the herd to move forward, including you. So get over it and let's get going. Right? See how
So to let go doesn't mean to get rid of it. Doesn't mean to just, place it in your subconscious. It means to just be, accept whatever that was, which is easier said than done.
Yeah, it's so much easier said than done. And I think sometimes when people have said get over it to me in different situations, it then entrenches me more. Isn't that funny?
Oh, it makes you not want to get over it.
Not get over it. Yeah.
I don't think you want to keep it going.
I want to keep talking about that lousy last job and why didn't they keep me and all this. Hang on to something, right?
Because what else would they talk about?
Yeah,
right.
And the minute I resolve my pain, I got to come up with something else in my life, right? I often think my mother's a great example on this. So in high school or college, it must have been in college. My buddies wanted to paint my mom's house, right? And so they're painting the house. I wasn't around for some reason, but I'm talking to her and how's the painting going? And she goes, good, but your friend borrowed my dad had passed away, his golf clubs. All right.
What?
And when's he bringing the golf clubs back?
What? He stole them.
He didn't steal them. I think I knew he was bringing them back, and it became like hey, Mom, get over it. He'll bring them back when he's done painting the house or in the summer. I know he's got them. I stay in touch with him. Repetitive. Every phone call. Hey, when's those golf clubs coming back? I'd say, get over it. Don't worry about the golf clubs. Well, it almost got to a point where I use it as reverse psychology. I remember telling him, saying, hey, don't bring those golf clubs back.
Oh, Gary.
Because that's the only thing she's worrying about right now. And the minute you bring those back, she's going to move on to other things in my life that,
oh my God,
that I don't want to deal with. So on both sides of that is just the idea that so there's something in your mind that you can't let it go, though, right? I mean, if something happens, if you have a relationship and it ends and it didn't end the way you wanted to, you keep playing it like a record in your head, like something's going to change if you hear it 5,000 times.
It's impactful, right? And so what people do, what we as humans do, is we always look back. What could I have done? What should I have done? I wish that they would have done. I didn't get to say X, Y, Z, right? Oh, yeah. I didn't get to really express myself. And those linger on in our minds as just non-conclusives. But then you become obsessed with the story, right?
Oh, yeah. It gets to be a good story, and it repeats and it repeats. And, you know, as I said, there's loss of jobs, loss of friendships, loss of opportunity. You know, if you didn't get a job promotion, right? That
other person, it hasn't worked there as long as you.
Oh, yeah. And it becomes part of this, you know, well, you know, she's a terrible person and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And now it's been like a year. Hey, you know, she's not going away. You know, you got to
get over it.
Get over it. Get back to your job.
Right. And go ahead.
I was going to say, you know, part of the reason that I say get over it to other people in a fun way, I guess, which probably isn't funny, but is the fact that I'm tired of hearing their story. You know what I mean?
I think that's true for anybody.
It isn't so much for them to be cured and move on from their terrible predicament in their lives with this lousy relationship or job or whatever else has happened.
Yes.
But it's the fact I'm getting a little tired of hearing this stuff over and over again. And I want to move on too. I want to move on.
Yeah. That poor person can't, you know, they have a psychological thing going on and you're not into the psychological therapy, right?
Yeah. The wallowing and whatever. It's wallowing. Did you ever hear that word wallow?
Wallowing. Yes.
Wallowing. Yeah. I haven't thought of that for a long time, but some people just love to wallow in things, right?
Oh,
just
yeah.
The misery of, you know, and unfortunately, as you get older, I think sometimes when I run into the older nursing home residents, assisted living residents, you know, they get hung up on something and they can't get over it either. You see what I'm saying? And it's not like a health related thing. It's more like an emotional connection to something.
Yes.
Connection to something. And, you know, and you're like, you know, I wish you could get over it so you could be happier. Do you know what I'm saying?
So my mom, even before Alzheimer's, my mom would get hooked on like these crime shows or talk shows where they're talking about whatever the news was at the time. And my mom would be talking to me and she would tell me about what they said verbatim many, many, many times.
Oh, gosh.
And it's like, haven't we watched a news show in the last 3 months, right?
Yes.
There had to be a conclusion at some point in there.
Wow. And so when it comes to, you know, to that, I don't know when people say stuff over and over again, do they just want to be listened to? Is that part of the reason that they're sharing, you know, their stories with us or their situations? I don't know if I can solve it. See what I'm getting at? Sometimes I'm listening to somebody and they have a predicament. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your husband. He's gone now, you know, and he ain't coming back. Do you know what I mean? It's like I must conclude things rather quickly rather than listening through it. So there must be like a process. Maybe, as I said, I always think age kind of time resolves a lot of this stuff. Doesn't it?
My gosh. No, that is so true. I used to tell my children, what will this mean a year from now?
That's a good thing.
What is this really going to mean 1 year from now? And think about things that truly were impactful in a negative sense to you in life. You did get over it. You eventually got over it.
Oh, yeah. And I never went out for like a play at school, not getting in the play. Did you ever go out for something and didn't get in something like that, Pam, or not really? As far as trying out for something. Trying out for something. You never really tried out. So you never got that feeling of failure like I probably.
No, I've had the feeling of failure many, many times. And but Gary, I don't recall that. But things I couldn't get over were maybe a group of people I was acquainted with or knew. They went somewhere and I didn't get invited.
There you go. Being left out. Being left out. Ooh, the pain. Yes.
The pain and the agony of why. why was I left
Yeah.
out?
And again, it repeats in your head, doesn't it? It's like it keeps going around. What did I do? What didn't I do? Something.
I can't let it go. You
can't
can't let it go.
You can't let it go. And so I wonder why. Did anybody ever tell you just get over it, or in those situations?
I'm sure my mom did. I'm sure my mom and dad told me to get over it.
They probably said she's only 2 years from moving out of here, and then we'll be out of it. Then we'll be out of it.
Oh. That's right.
But part of it is that it's I think about our investment in the emotional investment we put in others. Right? Does that make sense? And I had a situation just this week. We, I tied it in with something. It was a morning meeting, and the staff came in, and they're very gloom as a nursing home far away from here. But it was dealing with the 2 staff members that tested positive for the COVID. All right.
Yes.
And everyone was in various degrees of depression. And I said, I go back to that Kubler-Ross stuff I always bring up. Right? It was, the death and dying. And I said, there's denial that this is happening. There's anger that's happening. There's bargaining. There's depression and acceptance. And I looked at the group and I said, I processed that in 1 minute, and I got over it. We got to keep going.
You're dealing with it.
Yeah, we have to deal with it, right?
Right.
Everyone else want to wallow in that stuff about any of those pieces, saying, well, why them and why us? And I'm like, group, get over it. We got to get going here. Right?
Yeah, yes.
We have
you're not the only ones, right?
Yeah. Maybe there's a selfishness to it. Would you agree?
Well, Gary, yes. In fact, unpleasant emotions tend to define us. They tend to be part of our identity. And it's very easy to hold on to those unpleasant emotions and to share those unpleasant emotions with others. And in fact, if you're the one that can't get over it, you don't want to hear other people telling you to get over it.
Yeah. But isn't, as you're saying that though, you stop and think, like in World War II and probably all wars, but I always think about veterans, right? A lot of veterans never wanted to talk about their experiences in the war. Would you agree with that? And
I do agree. And
I know the last Veterans Day, I was walking around the nursing home I was at, and I was saying, I decided to go say hi to them and thank them for their service. And I think there were seven of them. And at some point, I said, many of them had pictures of them in the service on their walls.
I love that. Yes.
And so I asked them a little bit about the people in the pictures and this and that. And probably 6 out of the 7 said, in some regards, those were the best years of my life. Those were great years, right?
My gosh!
And just one gentleman who was in one, more of the current wars, the Iraq War. He was the only one that said that was probably the worst time of my life. I wish I could forget what I saw, those types of things.
Depending on their experience.
But the other ones, many, many years later, who knows when World War II was? Or, I mean, these are, they also kind of get into the early days of the Korean War and the Vietnam War a little bit. But the whole idea was it's been 60 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Before that. But to have them say, those are the best years of my life. And then other times people never brought things up. I mean, there was a time that veterans in World War II didn't want to talk about it. See what I'm saying?
Well, PTSD, right? Some veterans have experienced horribleness, and it's easier to push that down than to be a part of it. And I know with my husband, who's a veteran, he was an Army Ranger in Desert Storm. And there are elements that he does not want to talk about and that he won't talk about. And so just being respectful, we don't, even though over the years, different things have come out. And I think, time and distance, as time and distance pass, he's more able to communicate and talk about things without it bothering him. But I think that's a common problem.
Yeah. And so, those veterans I was talking about, it's been 50 or 60 years, their conditions have changed.
Going way back.
And, and some of their perceptions, again, they're trying to remember the good things. Does that make sense? I think they're trying to look for and seek out their good fellowships they had with other gentlemen or other people in the service there. But, when it comes to it, but what do you think, Pam, about just moving forward? I mean, is that herd? I'm hung up on that herd idea of how do we keep moving forward with people who don't get over it?
Yeah. So, first of all, you're challenged with the aspect that you are literally telling another human being that's not important, right? Everything you see importance in that negative feeling isn't that important. But another thing I keep thinking of, and I can remember as a little kid, my mom telling us, me and my brothers, this, and then I also pass this on to my children, is that even if it's not okay, it's going to be okay, right? Even if it's not okay, it will be okay one day. And that is such a true statement. So I don't know, but there are tips, right? There's tips on letting it go.
Yeah. Well, let's share a couple of those as we're talking.
All right. So first of all, you have to understand that the relationships you thought you'd have are going to be different than the ones you actually have. Did you ever have that?
The relationships you've had are different than the relationships
what you thought you had.
Okay. The perception was everything was great. Everything was great. In my mind, everything was great in my mind. Yeah. But it wasn't.
We connected, but it wasn't great. So think about to one of the earliest problems of not being able to let go in life for a lot of people is that first breakup from that first.
Oh, yeah, it's crushing. I remember my dad saying there's going to be another bus that comes along or some phrase like that.
Right.
It's like mind-boggling.
Your boyfriend breaks up with you, your girlfriend breaks up with you, and you cannot get over it, right? You can't eat. You're hibernating in your bedroom. You can't stop talking to your friends about it, and maybe that's when you start turning into the stalker, or start following that person around to try to get them back. But we all have been through that, and we all got over it, right?
Well, again, it takes time, but also that it's that process. I guess I'm hung up also as we're talking about. There must be steps that say try something. I think people don't want to try something else to get over something, right? Would you say?
I think you're right.
And so it's easier to just stay in your little cocoon than go out and be social again or try to meet somebody new.
The next one is don't be invested in the outcome when it comes to dealing with people, because that often leads to disappointment. So expectations have a way of keeping us stuck because they lead us to fear uncertain outcomes. So in other words, if you're not really clear of the outcome, we tend to stay away from it. And there's no guarantees in life, right? So there's nothing we can really do to get the outcomes we deserve when dealing with others. Right.
Well, that probably comes with experience though, right? So if you've had, like, my car's broken like 20 times, right? Then you tend to, it's going to break again, and I just get over it. I just call AAA and get over it.
Do you really, though, get over it, or do you carry it with you? So Gary just lost his voice and seems to be choking to death. And all I want to say to you, Gary, is can you not just get over it?
I'm trying my best. So hopefully I'm back on the scene here again about things. But thank you for reminding me to just get over that. Yes,
you're right.
Yeah, there's times of my pain and suffering that you were insensitive to, but I'll get over it.
Oh, my gosh. All right. So we're going through some tips of how to let go. Correct?
Yeah, and I was saying that time seems to resolve a lot of this, right? In some regards,
time and distance.
But I think I keep going back to this circular thing. When I've got hung up on something, it's like a circle, right? And it just keeps going in a circle. It's kind of like,
and you always come back.
You always come back. It's not like you're moving forward. It's kind of like, they didn't promote me in this job, and I had all the resume, I had all the opportunities, and they should have taken me, and they should have hired me. And then it goes back, I didn't get the promotion. They should have hired me.
Yes.
See, and it's like, I'm not moving forward there. I'm just in this circle. And if somebody says, get over it, I'm like, okay. And then I go back into those steps again where I'm not moving forward.
Right. Because it's so emotional to you and so psychological that words don't really help.
Yeah.
Right. It's almost takes an exercise.
Yeah. But maybe it's taking you out of that situation. Maybe it's introducing me to something else. Maybe in that situation I should have gone and got a different job. See what I'm saying? Maybe that would, or at least go interview for a different job.
Sure.
And then,
sure.
But, in situations when it comes to relationships, maybe go out with some other groups of friends or go do something different. Get your mind off of whatever is that part of it? Getting your mind off of it?
Well, you've also heard of the fact that sometimes when you move on, all you're doing is comparing that new person to the old person. Why can't they be more like him? Why he used to do these things? This person doesn't do. I mean, my goodness, it could go on. That other person could have been the worst person in the world.
Yes.
But because you're in distress and pain, you're thinking of all the wonderfulness, right?
I wonder why that happens. And it's happened to people I've known that have passed away too, died. All of a sudden they're heroes. I'm thinking they weren't a hero. They weren't a hero the whole time they were alive.
Oh my gosh, Gary.
And now that they're not with us anymore, now we got a hero status going on, right?
I think it's respect.
And same with like past boyfriends, girlfriends, they were the greatest in the world. Well, they sure didn't treat you that. They didn't treat you that like you were, they were the hero,
Oh no. Have you ever had a conversation with a friend who had a breakup and all the dirt? You're well aware of all the badness, and they're talking like it was the best thing in the world. No, and you're just, no, it wasn't.
They're defending the person that wasn't that good of a person, right?
Right. That's so true. Okay, another tip is let go of the idea that you can control others' actions. We really have no control, only for ourselves.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, there's a little bit of uselessness of saying get over it when they have to invite you into their world to want to change, right? That's why I said at the beginning, there's situations you need professional help in medicine, and you need counseling and somebody else to help you, make that break, I guess, and go forward. But, small things like, one of the things I always say is like, my car breaking down, like get over it, right? The answer to my car breaking down is I should get a new used car. See where I'm coming?
Exactly.
Yeah, and so
there is an action you might have to take. So
my friends and family that have heard me moaning for my car that it's close to 260,000 miles on it today, right? The one I'm driving. I've had a dozen times that I'm like hung up on, this is broken, that's broken. Hey, can you help me out? Can I, and they, at some point hey, get over it is also a message saying, hey, get a new ride, get a new car.
Exactly.
We're getting a little tired of you complaining about something that's your problem, right?
No, getting over something, you started off by indicating this. It's more annoying to the person you're talking to, right?
Right.
You only want them to get over it so you never have to hear it again. Right? That's what you alluded to early on.
Yeah, well, that's not a good thing. But yeah, that's basically, it goes back to the herd, trying to keep the herd moving forward here, right? We're all trying
to leave that poor baby buffalo behind.
We're just trying to keep things moving forward.
Okay, another tip. Only worry about what you think of yourself. So that's another big part of this is a lot of times when you can't get over something, it's because you feel bad about yourself.
Oh.
Do you agree? Think about that.
You can't get over it because you're feeling bad about yourself, right? And give me more examples of what you're saying on that one.
Okay, so you're supposed to free yourself from being controlled by what other people think of you. So let's go back to the breakup. Or we could even say you put a bid on a house you really, really wanted, you didn't get it.
Yeah.
You start to look at yourself that if only I would have done this, and this, I would have gotten that house.
Would have, could have, right? Would have,
could have, should have.
Yeah. Yeah. So, part of this topic is somehow, like I said, I've kind of learned in my mind how to walk through those death and dying or loss processes rather quickly. So I had a situation about a year ago. I was all set to get refinancing on my house. I get laid off from a job.
Yes.
There goes my refinancing. See what I'm saying? Yeah, that's major disappointment. I don't think I got into a record playing, telling the world over and over again how miserable I was. But the idea, I could have. It would have been fun. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, and don't you really dislike kind of, is when people ask you, hey, did you move into that new house? Now you have to go through that story.
The story.
Well, we got some refinancing.
It didn't work out.
It didn't work out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, nobody wants to do that.
That's all part of my adventure in aging, right? As things happen.
No, it really
like
is.
As we say. But
the next tip, leave room for mistakes. We are going to say something stupid, do something stupid, and somebody is going to say something stupid and do something stupid to us.
Yeah. I mean, we're not perfect, right? And I think I have more respect for people. Maybe it's how I see myself. When you say it's my fault, right? I say it's my fault probably more times than most people.
I think you do, Gary.
I see where I messed up in this. See what I'm saying?
Gary, don't you even, like I know at work, you'll ask a subordinate to do something for you, and then you'll turn right around within 5 seconds and say, no, that's okay. I'll go do it myself.
Yeah. Well, I try not to, but yeah, I've done that 1,000 times.
And so that other person now has that negative feeling because, he doesn't think I can do it as good as him.
Yeah, he doesn't trust me.
But you're actually thinking, I could actually go do that myself, right?
Yeah. And then you get into this whole, the psychoanalysis of things like that. What's the next tip there, Pam?
Accept the things you cannot change. And have we not heard that our whole entire life?
Accept the things you can't change. Change the things you can and accept the things you can't, right? So
that is easier said than done. I think that you and I, as an example, could go back through life and think of things that have happened that we didn't want to change.
Yeah. Well,
right?
Well, sometimes when I get in this about, not getting over things, sometimes, as I get older, as I look back and I think I learn more when things go wrong, to be honest. When things have gone wrong in my life.
You've said that before. Yeah.
When things go wrong at work, that's when I learn stuff, right? And I should apply it to other parts of my life too, I guess, a little bit. But yeah, usually when things go wrong, that's when I step back and say, wow, I must be learning something because this is when I really learn stuff is when things go bad. So.
Well, that's the best attitude to have. Okay, the next tip. Don't take yourself too seriously.
I sure don't.
Gary, we really don't take ourselves seriously. In fact, we should probably take ourselves more seriously sometimes.
Yeah, as we're getting into about, the end of this episode. But yeah, the whole idea of getting over it, I think when I think about it, is the idea that when people say it to you, they care about you, but they're also sick of you, right? Saying it at the same time.
I'm sick of you.
But they're saying it in a caring way. That's what's so fun. I think that's what I learned about this whole episode is every time I've said it to somebody, I'm probably pretty selfish. I'm probably just tired of them wallowing and holding the herd back. And then the other side of it is there's a side of me that wants them to just enjoy life. There's so much more to life. And I think whenever people get hung up in that circle thing, it's like days are passing, weeks are passing, and to some people I know years are passing, and they're not over it. And I wish they would because we love them, we care about them, we want the very best for them.
No, it can sadden us and depress us to see people we care about and love going through those negatives in life that they can't get over. Right. You pray for them to get over it.
One of my phrases in life is I do not have the luxury of a negative thought. Isn't that weird that I think about that? I cannot afford the luxury of a negative thought. It's like a diamond ring. I can't afford the luxury of a negative thought. And
my gosh, that's profound.
Isn't that something?
Yes.
And I think that's what ties in with this whole subject too. Is it's never positive. People don't get hung up on a positive thing, right? Usually, no one tells.
Unless they're bragging.
Well, yeah, that's called bragging, and we should get over that too. Hey, will you get over that? Get over the bragging. Yeah, you are the president of the company. Yeah.
You don't need to tell me anymore. Get over it. Okay, a couple more. Do what scares you. Can you imagine?
No, I've done that. That jumping out of airplanes and marathons, those have scared the daylights out of me. That's a good way to shock yourself out of that repetitive thing.
allow yourself to feel negative emotions.
Oh yeah. I
You
think
know, have you heard that? Give yourself permission.
I've in my life, I remember when I was younger, I used to say, if you're gonna be happy, be really happy. If you're gonna be really sad, be really sad. If you're gonna be
don't do halfway.
Don't do halfway. Be moaning. Be on the ground in pain.
Be in pain.
Be in pain.
Go lock yourself in your room. Get under the covers.
Well, I've always been a believer that clouds are either coming together or going apart. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
And so if they're coming together, that's good times. Everything's happy, right? The clouds are coming together. When they're going apart, you're heading towards bad times. So
you can look at someone who's in a really bad space and say, you know what? It's not bad enough. Because you're not acting like it is, right?
I don't say that, but I'm saying it is the range of emotions that you have.
Okay, and then the last one is learn to forgive.
There you go. What a profound thing to say at the end.
Yeah, it is so profound. Well, Gary, that brings us to the end of another podcast that I thoroughly enjoyed, as I always do. And just want to thank all of our listeners. Please subscribe to our podcast. Please share it with your friends. And let us know if you enjoy our topics. And if you ever want to suggest, please do. Gary and I would love to take your suggestions. And we will see you next time. Thank you.